Well, hello and welcome, everybody, wherever you may be. This is Tom Kelly, and the show is Real Estate Today, right here on the new Kiro Radio Weekends, 97.3 KiroFM. Every Sunday morning at 9, we take your questions, comments, and concerns about housing, home loans, tax, everything under your roof. In fact, if you borrow against your roof, this is the place to call. Today, the long and short of short sales. A short sale has become a popular alternative to homeowners facing foreclosure. What exactly is a short sale, and who can qualify? With us today is Wes Jones. He's of Home Help Consultants, and we'll be talking with Wes for about the next hour about people who need and can use a short sale, and those who can't. We definitely want to hear from you. 1-888-973-KIRO. That's 1-888-973-5476. Or you can go to our websites, KiroRadio.com or MyNorthwest.com, and click on the button that says Participate with Show. On the Kiro Radio, it's a red button. And on the MyNorthwest.com, it's the blue Linwood Honda button, and you can ask your question online right now. Short sales are a huge topic right now. A lot of people are behind. That means that they owe more than their home is worth. With us today is Wes Jones, and he has become an expert in helping people sort through short sales. Wes, welcome. Good morning. Thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely, Tom. Thanks for having me on. But I'll tell you, there's a big piece of me that wishes we were rescheduling this because I thought for sure I was going to be down in New Orleans watching our Seahawks in the Super Bowl.
Good for you. And it's going to be, it was a great season, a great day. And unfortunately, we wish that Kiro was down there too with the Hawks. But we are here and we are hoping for the best. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is a short sale? Kind of explain that to our listeners because, they're kind of confused the difference between a foreclosure and a short sale.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. Real simple. What a short sale is it's a home that is listed on the market. And since values have readjusted as hard as they have over the last couple of years, there's many homeowners out there that are upside down on their loan. Which means that their home is worth less than what they owe. So where a short sale comes in is where a home is listed on the market, and that homeowner does not have the funds to bridge that gap between what is owed and the new value of the property, and they're asking the bank to allow them to sell the property and forgive the balance of their loan.
How successful is this process? Initially it became a kind of an arm wrestle with the banks, but folks like you, folks who are specializing in short sales, have been working with the banks. Is this becoming easier? Is the process becoming shorter? Because it used to take forever.
I can say that it's becoming more streamlined, and there's been a lot of government regulations, and the big banks have pushed for short sales because they have finally come to the conclusion that a short sale for them is also better than a foreclosure. You'll hear me probably say this several times. Short sales mitigate the bank loss versus foreclosure, and that's why they go through. But I would still say that there are still some struggles that are involved with the short sale process. They go a little bit smoother than they used to, but it still can be something that can take a while. As far as how many of these are going through nationwide, the success rate for short sales is not very high. I think National Association of Realtors says about 30-35% of all short sales nationwide get approved. It's my belief, and there's some really good teams out there, including ours, that you should be working with somebody that's closing over 90% of their short sales.
So let's go back to what you said about short sales mitigate a lender's loss versus a foreclosure. Explain that to our listeners.
Yeah, real easy. I would look at it this way, is that it mitigates the bank loss versus foreclosure. Layman's terms, they're going to recover more of their loan in a short sale than they would by going through the foreclosure process. Think about it this way. If they can do a short sale on the front end, they've got the homeowner who's still living in the property. If it's for sale, they're obviously taking care of it to a certain extent. The yard is being kept up, and all of their bills are being paid, versus somebody who is going through foreclosure. Well, if they just decide to let it go, they don't know what type of condition that property is going to be in. There are tremendous fees associated with foreclosing on a property by the bank, through the trustees, and who knows what type of condition that property is going to be once it does go through the foreclosure process. Then they've got to put it back together, and then they've got to market it themselves. And they're going to recover up to 80% of their loan by doing a short sale versus about 60% if they were to foreclose on it.
Wes, a lot of people think short sales are only hardship situation. Does a homeowner have to be in a hardship to attempt this?
That's a great question, and 3 years ago I would have said yes. And today, my answer is no. And
how about missed payments? Do you have to have missed payments to take part?
Well, I will. This is a tough one. Since I'm not a lawyer, I can't give legal advice, but I will tell you this when it comes to missed payments. We did over 100 short sales in the Seattle area this past year, and we had only one person who was current at closing. And that person was active duty military, and he had change orders where he was being transferred out of the state, and that's kind of a special situation. There are very few situations where a homeowner can remain current on their payments and complete a short sale. And I don't agree with the banks all of that often, but I kind of get where they're coming from when it comes to that. Because if somebody's current, like I said before, the short sales mitigate the bank loss versus foreclosure. So if a homeowner is not a threat to the bank for foreclosure, what motivation does the bank have to work with them?
Right, that's right.
Because you've got a homeowner who's paying their bills, and they probably got a track record of paying on time for the last 3, 5, 7 years, and all of a sudden he walks in, hey, I'd like to do a short sale. Well, there's not a lot of motivation for them to work with that person. But if that person becomes several months behind, all of a sudden the bank's got a problem, and at that point they're going to be willing to talk to that homeowner.
We're going to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the moral of this thing. If you've never missed a payment, does it seem right to get yourself into a short sale situation? We also want to hear from you. 1-888-973-5476. That's 1-888-973-KIRO. Or go to our website, KiroRadio.com or MyNorthwest.com, and click on the icon that says Connect with Show, and we can take your question online right now. I also will encourage you to go to MyNorthwest.com. Every day during the week, we've got a daily real estate news feed there. MyNorthwest.com, scroll on down to real estate. We've got surveys, opinions, all sorts of tales on real estate on MyNorthwest.com. This is Real Estate Today. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Estate Today, your headquarters for home and loan questions every week. My name is Tom Kelly. I want to thank all the folks who came out to the Kirkland Costco yesterday to meet me and talk about my new novel, Cold Crossover. We'll be at the North Seattle Costco on Saturday and over in the Issaquah Costco on the 19th of February. Cold Crossover, check it out. My guest today is Wes Jones. His expertise is short sales, and I want to direct you to his website, howshortami.com. howshortami.com. There's a lot of information and material there. Also, if you want to talk to Wes during the week, give him a holler, 425-274-0171. That's 425-274-0171. We got a question from Harvey in Lakewood. Tom, concerned about credit. What's the situation with short sales versus foreclosure? Wes, I'm sure this comes up all the time. Explain for Harvey and the rest of our listeners.
Yeah, sure thing. This does come up all the time. And, There is not a direct answer on how much a short sale is going to impact your credit. Everybody is a little bit differently. What we do know is that your credit is impacted a little bit more by the missed mortgage payments that are typically associated with a short sale versus the actual short sale itself. But what we are seeing is we're seeing credit rebound in about 12 to 18 months. And we're seeing people being able to buy homes again in as early as 2 to 3 years. We actually had one client recently who was ready to purchase again after 18 months. He was certainly the exception, not the rule, but it can happen. Here's a great story for credit, and this will probably put things in perspective for people. But last year we had a husband and wife both on the loan, so they were both affected, and they were curious about where their credit score went. So we pulled it for them 6 months later. And what we discovered was something very interesting. Her credit was only hit by about 20 points. His credit was hit about 95 points. So married couple, same loan, same process, and you had a pretty big difference between the two. So what it tells us is it probably has as much to do with the short sale as it does what's happened over the last 10 years for your credit. Have you always been on time? Have you had late pays or slow pays, prior to what's happened during the short sale? Now, you compare that to something like foreclosure. Foreclosure, you're looking at an immediate 250-point drop, and it's something that is on your credit record, on your actual credit report. And it will show up as foreclosure anytime somebody runs that report. And that's not the case with short sale. Now, in a short sale, if somebody knows how to read a credit report, they're likely going to know that a short sale took place, but it's not that black mark that shows up like it does with foreclosure. And foreclosure, you're probably looking at 5 to 7 years before your credit has really recovered and that somebody is looking to lend to you again for a home. But I actually think that there are some bigger deals with foreclosure that, that other people don't talk about. If you go through the foreclosure process, any application you fill out, it likely asks you, have you been through foreclosure? That's going to be an employment application, a credit card application. It could be, a rental application, trying to get a car loan. And that's, something that you just definitely want to avoid at all costs.
Wes, what comes up all the time is the right thing to do. In fact, I had this young couple call me this past week. They have been current on their mortgage. They are way behind. They're way underwater.
Right.
The mortgage is far greater than the value of the home. They have tried
a lot of people out there like that.
They have tried to work with their lender on reducing the rate, on some sort of forbearance. The lender has been non-responsive. So what they're thinking about doing now is not making their payments and forcing the short sale situation. What about this? What about people who walk away? I mean, people face this morally. If the lender doesn't respond, is it really a moral issue?
I don't think it's a moral issue. I really don't think there's a moral issue here. This is not anybody's fault. Nobody knew that values were going to go the direction that they did. But here we are, and it's readjusted very hard. And what are you going to do about it? That's the only choice that you have. And I think the morality lies in doing the right thing for you and doing the right thing for your family. And, for the couple that called you last week, if, their bank's not doing anything for them, well, I'll tell you, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised they're not doing anything for them, because all they've done to this point is show them that they can pay and they will continue to pay. So why would the bank want to cut them any slack? Trust me, the banks do not care. They do not care about us, and they do not care about what's going on. They only care about their bottom line. And to get, the majority of the time, to get any reaction out of them, you're going to have to force their hand. And that's going to be for a loan modification or a short sale.
Okay. We're going to get in a quick question before Bob Larson in the news. This comes from Craig up in Kenmore. I completed a short sale last March with the first and seconds reconveyed. At around the time of the closing, the second said they would reconvey but still wanted to be paid. The loan docs state that reconveying was evidence of payment in full, and all evidence of indebtedness would be relinquished, and yet from time to time since then, I received requests for payments. How can this be? So Craig is getting a mixed message from one of the lenders involved in the deal.
I would really have to read, and I'm assuming that he's getting that from his second loan. Is that correct, or is that your understanding?
Yeah, that's my understanding. And, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Craig and the rest of our listeners your number during the week, and maybe you can clarify them. Get a hold of Wes, Craig, and maybe you can get some clarity on this. It'd be very hard to take this apart on air. 425-274-0171. That's
if he could, I'm sorry, go ahead.
425-274-0171. Give him a holler, and maybe we can straighten this out.
I'd be happy to read that thing and give him my thoughts on it so we can connect this week. My guess is I've heard of this happening before. My guess is there's a glitch in the bank system, and maybe they're just trying to see if they can collect something. Okay. But I feel strongly that if he's got an approval letter that says they are releasing their deficiency judgments, that he should be fine.
Okay. And I'll get a hold of Craig and see if it's okay for you to email him. We're going to take a break for Bob Larson in the news. We'll come back with Real Estate Today. Give us a holler, 1-888-973-5476, 1-888-973-KIRO. Seems like the folks are using the internet today to send their questions. We definitely will have room for you on the internet, mynorthwest.com. KiroRadio.com. Send your question. We'll get to it immediately. This is Tom Kelly. The show's Real Estate Today on 97.3 Kiro FM. If you're looking for a future show and a topic that is dear to you, send us an email or a message. In fact, you could do it today right here on mynorthwest.com or KiroRadio.com, and we'll get on an expert, much like today's expert in short sales, Wes Jones. Next week, we'll be talking about prefab homes. Everybody's wondering about if it's less expensive. Does it make sense? Can you build them in the middle of nowhere? Next week, Sherry Kunis will be with us. She has 4 books on prefab homes. The most recent one, Prefabulous and Nearly Off the Grid. If you're going to build a home in the middle of nowhere and want to do a prefab, you're going to want to listen in next week when we talk about prefab homes right here on Real Estate Today. My guest is Wes Jones, and we've been talking about short sales, a very popular topic, especially because a lot of homes are not worth what the loan balance is. And Wes, let's go to an example for a second. Let's say my house, the loan on my house is $350,000. My house is on the market to sell, and I get a short sale offer at $300,000. So I'm shorting, so to speak, the $50,000.
Okay.
If the lender agrees to short the $50,000, what happens on the remainder?
Well, it depends how many loans we're working with. If we're with a first or a second loan, I'm just going to assume that it's one loan here, for the sake of the argument. Because of the way foreclosures laws work here in Washington, in foreclosure, a first loan is wiped out, and the only recourse the bank has is to take the home back. Typically, we're able to get approval letters on first loans that are going to specifically state that balance, basically that they have waived their right to pursue that balance. 9 times out of 10, that balance is waived and it goes away. If it's a second loan, it can be treated a little bit differently. Just because second loans do survive foreclosure, banks have a little bit more leverage to collect on those. Typically what happens is what we're seeing banks settle for 10 to 20 cents on the dollar for those second loans, and with an additional payment by the seller, we should be able to get a second loan paid in full as well.
So, Wes, help me understand this, because I thought if a loan went to foreclosure and the lender foreclosing had the first lien, that if they got to the courthouse steps, that everything else was extinguished. Everybody else was out of luck, including the second loan. Isn't that correct?
That, well, they are out of luck. There's not a lot that second loan can do, but they can pursue the seller directly. They won't have a right to the property, but that seller can pursue a homeowner post foreclosure with their second loan, and we've seen people do so. And I think that would be one of the number one reasons to consider a short sale over foreclosure is when somebody has a second loan, because they've got the opportunity to make a new deal with the bank and potentially get that taken care of.
We got a question from Barbara in Stillicum. She says, Tom, how long is it taking lenders to foreclose? I read national stories that people stay in their homes for years before lenders get to them. Is there any update on how long I could stay if I didn't make payments? I guess this is the question of the day, Wes.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I'm glad she asked it, too, because things are changing. I have worked with people in the last 18 months that have been 15, 18, 24, even 30 months behind on their mortgages. But from what I've seen lately is I believe that those days are over. What a lot of people don't know is we are on an unofficial foreclosure or trustee sale moratorium when the big banks and the government were going through that $25 billion settlement. We just weren't seeing a lot of those trustee sales. Now we're through that, and the banks have not only figured out how to do short sales, they've also figured out how to process their foreclosures at a quicker rate. So in a traditional market, if this was back in 2002, you'd be looking at, being behind on your mortgage on month 3. You'd be getting that notice of default on month 4, notice of trustee sale, and then 3 months later, foreclosure would happen. I'm seeing it happen quicker these days. Those days of them being 1-2 years behind, I think, are over. Every bank is going to be a little bit different, and it might have more to do with the investor behind that particular loan. But I've seen trustee sale and foreclosure activity pick up significantly over the last 6 months. So
well, I'll tell you, Wes, there's a lot of underlying anger out there with consumers with loans who are making no headway with their lender. They say, we as a nation bailed out these banks, but the banks are doing nothing to extend credit and lending to us. And they do have a point. A lot of these banks are not working with consumers when it comes to lowering interest rates. There are banks out there that will not even get rid of their prepayment penalties for borrowers who with perfect credit and perfect payment history. And because of what we did for the banks nationally, people don't get that, and they definitely have a point. We're going to take a short commercial break and come back with Wes Jones, and we do have room for you. 1-888-973-KIRO, or go to our website, mynorthwest.com, KiroRadio.com, and ask your questions. All 3 of our callers this morning have asked their questions online. We are definitely moving into the digital age. We are definitely there. We've got room for you there as well. This is Real Estate Today on the new Kiro Radio Weekend, 97.3 FM. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Tom Kelly, and as I mentioned, next week, prefabbed homes right here on Real Estate Today. If you're looking for a Valentine's Day present, or as Rachel said, just a February present, look at Cold Crossover, especially for your basketball readers, your mystery readers. You can give it my new novel, Cold Crossover, for Valentine's Day. Make great reading during the NCAA tournament. Check it out. Download it online at bookstores everywhere. Wes, we've got a question from Janelle up in Edmonds. She talks about a deed in lieu of foreclosure and a short sale. Can you kind of compare and contrast and what one means and what doesn't?
Yeah, great question. A deed in lieu of foreclosure is something that people always throw out there. And essentially what it is what we call it is friendly foreclosure, because it is foreclosure. And it's in the name, deed in lieu of foreclosure. And what it is essentially had an agreement with the bank that you are handing over your keys and you are giving them back the deed, and you're not going through the act of foreclosure. But mark my words, guys, it is foreclosure, and it will be treated as such on your credit record.
So a deed in lieu is the same as far as being a grave mark on your credit as a foreclosure is?
Yes.
Wow. I don't think people realize
it might
that.
be there's some people might take it as a step below foreclosure, but it's going to be a red flag, and it's going to be a black mark on your credit report. So, I'd like to see people avoid those as well. The interesting thing right now is people always think, well, hey, maybe I can go and get a deed in lieu instead of going through the short sale process. Well, the reality is, right now, what deed in lieu speeds up foreclosure, and the banks don't want your house at this point. So it's going to be very difficult for somebody to get a deed in lieu. If you talk to Wells Fargo, if you talk to Bank of America, they're going to tell you that they want your house on as a short sale for at least 4 to 6 months prior to them even considering a deed in lieu.
Okay. I'm going to give you Wes's number again. If you want to talk to him during the week, it's 425-274-0171, 425-274-0171. And also that website with a lot of information is howshortami.com, howshortami.com. Wes, let's talk about who should consider a short sale and who shouldn't. Are there candidates that should absolutely not consider this?
I think there are candidates who should absolutely not consider it. And you're looking at a couple different groups. If you are self-employed, or if you have a business where your business credit is tied to your personal credit, maybe you're a dentist. That seems to come up more and more. And you could not take a credit hit because that would impact your lines of credit that you have for your business. That would be a reason not to consider a short sale, because you are going to take a credit hit in a short sale situation, and if that impacts their business, that's going to be something that you don't want to do. Another example would be take my grandparents, for example. For them, they're going to be in the house for the rest of their lives, and value is pretty irrelevant.
That's a good point. A lot of people say, well, jeepers creepers, my loan is worth a lot more than my house is worth. A lot of people shouldn't care. I mean, they're going to stay there, and by the time they move out, the market's probably going to turn around anyway. But people are going to stay in their homes. It makes no difference whatsoever. And the other thing is, for investors out there who have a rental property that's underwater, go ahead and continue to rent. Rents are going up. Let somebody else pay off your mortgage, and by the time these things turn around, you're probably going to be in positive territory. Wes, you probably get this all the time from investors.
We do, and I agree with what you said. As long as an investment property cash flows, it's irrelevant what the price is. So if you make money every single month as an investor of rental properties, it doesn't matter if you're $50,000 up or $50,000 down, because you're still making money. Now, we had the run of would-be real estate investors over the last 8 years who are not necessarily positive cash flow on a monthly basis, and now they're upside down. That's somebody who's going to want to consider a short sale.
We have a question from Cindy in Enumclaw. It also goes back to the short sale versus deed in lieu. Mm-hmm. Our mortgage company has now given us two options: apply for a loan modification, but we were turned down. They have about broken me down, and I am exhausted dealing with them. I'll tell you, Cindy, you are not alone.
No, she's not.
We have been in our home 21 years, and the only thing we want is to lower the interest rate for a lower monthly payment. We are behind on payments. Wes, this comes up all the time, and I guess the lender's going to Cindy and saying short sale versus deed in lieu. Can't she continue to ask for a lower payment? And are there magic words that she can use with the lender to get this done? I mean, she's been in the house for 21 years.
I know. This is such a tough position, and I really feel for people like this because they do want to stay. They don't want to sell, but they do need a lower rate. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I just don't know too many people who've had their loans modified permanently to something that makes sense for them. What I would do, if that's the goal, though, I would continue. The people that I have talked to that have gotten loan modifications, they didn't get it on the first try. They probably didn't get it on the second try. It was that third, fourth, or fifth. There's also a lawyer that I know who may be able to help her out if she wants to give me a call or send me an email, and I could put her in touch.
Okay, Cindy mentions that she's behind on her payments.
Mm-hmm.
Wes, if she continues not to pay, will the lender be more likely to give her a loan mod and lower her payment?
I'm only seeing the banks help people when it makes sense for them. And what I mean by that is by being behind on their mortgage. I really do.
If she's behind, I'm thinking that if she's behind even further, and the bank, it's time for the bank to roll the dice, maybe they roll the dice and give her a lower rate so she can stay there and they don't have to go through the foreclosure process.
That seems like the most reasonable thing to do, but I see banks make unreasonable decisions all of the time. If she keeps at it, she may have a chance. At the same time, if she's behind on her mortgage, and a mortgage is not being paid, she's at the risk for foreclosure as well.
Well, Cindy, I think if you're still listening, I would continue to ask for a lower payment as you missed your payments, because it's going to cost this bank a lot of money to go to foreclosure. We've talked about that earlier in the show. And if you can tell the bank, you know what, we've been here, keep telling them, we've been here 21 years and we want to stay, give me a lower rate. I think there's at least a glimmer of chance that they can do that, because they do not want to spend the money to go all the way to foreclosure. I'd give her the advice that's the same thing what we do in our short sale negotiations. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. Yeah. So if she stays on them and if she is all over them, or if she gets some help, she is going to be considered more than the average person seeking a loan mod. Okay. Wes, I really appreciate your time. Here's the phone number for Wes during the week again, 425-274-0171. Also, the website, howshortami.com. Check it out. Next week, Prefab Homes. Author Sherry Kunis is here. She knows all about prefab homes, especially if you're building them in the middle of nowhere. The name of the novel, Cold Crossover. Makes a great Valentine's gift. See you next week at 9 on Real Estate Today, where